Alright, hey guys, rapid fire. We're going to go through the next 5 games off of the Tales from the Unopened Bottom Shelf Crypt list thing that I have on BoardGameGeek, which should be linked in the comments below, or the thing, little box thing that's under the video. I'm going to talk about these 5 games really fast, and I'm going to talk about them really fast because either I don't like them very much, or everyone likes them, and so it's not really worth a whole lot of time for me to talk about them. Alright, so here we go. Boom! Terra Nova. This is Terra Nova. This game is like what would happen if you took Domain, the game by Klaus Teuber, where you build a bunch of fences around and be mean and bully people, and Through the Desert, the game by Reiner Knizia, where you take camels to the desert and you bully people, and you made those games fight each other until they both died, so you couldn't play them anymore, and then you had to play this game instead. In this game, you are a bunch of guys walking around a hex board. Every time that you walk around the hex board, you have to put down a fence, and then if you fence off a big area, then you get that area, and you keep playing until nobody can get out. And it's just not super fun, particularly compared to the 2 games that I just mentioned. Everybody moves like a rook, so that most of the games come down to somebody just not seeing a guy from all the way across the board flying into their territory at the last minute, which is annoying. So if the primary source of uncertainty in your game is that the board state's a little bit hard to keep track of, this is not great. It's not awful either. It's just like, it's, not a great option. So that's Terra Nova. Babel. Babel is a game by Uwe Rosenberg where the 2 players are competing to build these temples. And unlike most sort of Euro Uwe Rosenberg, I guess I wouldn't really expect this from this designer because this game has a lot of just punching and beating each other up. So if you get 3 different cards of the same color in a row, you're allowed to use a special ability, and the special abilities are things like blowing up the entire tower the other person has, or stealing the top floor of their tower, or killing all the guys that they have there at the tower, building the tower, is a bunch of beating each other up. And the game definitely has this feel where you're just like standing around punching each other in the face until one of you gets tired of punching and you stop. But it's good somehow, despite that. I don't know. I like this game. I shouldn't. The way that I'm describing it, I think is really accurate, and I also think I should not like the game as described. But I do actually like it, so I don't know. Babel, Uwe Rosenberg. It's pretty cool. Next one, Suburbia, Ted Alspach, Bezier Games. Everyone loves Suburbia. It's great. I bought it because everybody loved it, and it has the SimCity sort of feel to it. You got your industrial and your commercial and your residential, and they all interact with each other. A couple things I don't like about this game are with more than 2 players, you have to check all over the place every time you want to buy a tile because there's a billion things that it might have to deal with, and you really need to make sure that people do all the stuff that their tiles tell it to do. Otherwise, the game will get screwed up. Like, people will not have the points they're supposed to have, and then everything will be all wrong. Especially because a lot of the adjustments are adjustments to how many points you get on a turn, not just straight up points. So it's hard to go back and correct, like, oh, you should have gotten those 3 points. It's, well, at some point in the past, you should have gotten an increase in rate of 3, which would make you get 3 for every turn that you've played since then, but you would also have crossed these red lines and lowered. So you can't really fix. Like, it's hard to repair from some of those mistakes. Which means that this game, with more than 2 people, seems like it probably ought to be a video game instead of a board game. But with like 2 people, it's manageable. It's a little bit fiddly, but it's manageable, and it's a really solid, fun game. So that's Suburbia. I don't know if you need my recommendation on it, because everyone else already recommended it pretty highly. But yeah, it's good. I like it. This is Gosu Tactics Goblin Supremacy Tactics Goblin Gosu 2nd Edition. This game feels like a steamrolling game where you pick up cards at the start, and then whoever has the most hits the other person over and over until they die. I know people play this game online, and there's an ELO ranking system, which means that apparently the better player is going to win most of the time. We have played a decent number of games of this, and have not really found it to be the case that whoever's winning at the start is not going to be the person who's winning at the end. There must be, so I was going to say maybe there is, but there actually must be something about how to play this game, rather than not just the rules, but how to play it, that I am not hooking on to at all, because all of the games that we've played have just been super, super steamrolly, and honestly not that fun because of it. You get a nice combo of cards right at the beginning. You are going to be able to do more powerful stuff on your turn than your opponent is going to be able to do on their turn. So you then win the second round, and then you win the third round, and there's a little bit of a catch-up mechanic, but it's not a lot. I've heard that it was actually really strong in the first version of the game to the point where people would actually lose the first round on purpose. Sometimes. I don't know. Maybe it needs to have been that big. Anyway, I'm not a big fan of this right now, but maybe one day I'll read the forums and be like, that's what I was supposed to have been doing all along, and then I'll understand the brilliance and I'll, I don't know, like it. But I don't really like it right now. So, this is The Convoy by Portal Games and by this guy who I really like. I really like this designer. This one. Ignacy Trskov. He's a cool guy, and he's designed some really neat games, and he did not design Neuroshima Hex, but this game feels, it's in the Neuroshima Hex universe, and a game feels a little bit like Neuroshima Hex anyway, because you're setting up troops way in advance of when they're actually going to be fighting, but they're using these special abilities, and you're manipulating where they're standing, and doing a bunch of cool stuff all the time. This is one of those two-player games where there's two different decks, and you need to really know what's in them in order to play it at a kind of good level. Which means that, sadly, this is not a game that I can just pull out with, like, somebody and be like, yeah, let's play Convoy, because once I've played it 3 or 4 times, even, like, that early on, I have a better understanding of the decks, meaning that I know what you're going to be able to get, and I can think about sort of the power level of what's left in your deck versus what I've got to play right now. So should I play this guy, or should I wait until you're playing another big guy to sort of counter it? I don't know. Like, I know what the important threats are and when I should worry about them. And then, I don't know, the skill gap seems like it's just going to widen more and more after more and more games. So, not super accessible, and not something that, like, a seasoned player could really break out and play against a new player and have the game feel very good. But I like the game anyway. I have somebody playing it with me that we've both played it about the same number of times. And you get to make those kinds of nice, deep decisions because of that. Because it does offer you that. You can really, I don't know, you have the same resources pretty much every game, and you have the ability to sort of base your moves based on what you know is going to be happening in the future. It's kind of like a well-tuned match in a CCG, where you know what's in your deck, you know probably, well, you know what your opponent has in their deck, and you can say, alright, I need to save this card for when you use that, but if you're saving your card for when I do this, then well, maybe I should just play it now. You can make these kinds of decisions. I don't know. It's a really cool game. I like the way that it's about this like slog where this robot army is like punching through these locations, and no matter what happens, they're going to get to the end, and it feels really super hopeless and desperate, and then you get to the end, and whoever has the last thing alive there is going to be the winner, basically, or I have to kill all of the robots. The game, I don't know, it always seems to come down to that last location, and it remains tense up until that point, so it seems like it's a pretty solidly balanced game as well. I don't know. The Convoy, really awesome. Definitely check it out. Alright, so that's the next 5 games in Tales from the Crypt. Sorry I went through them kind of fast, but I guess I'm not sorry, because they're either games that are straight up liked, or games that I just did not like very much. In the future, I will hope to spend a little bit more time on them, but that's probably only going to happen if there's a little bit more debate about whether or not I enjoyed the games or not. So, until next time, this has been an Even Weirder Move.